This happened literally this morning, and I just need to vent. I've been a wreck all day, and my head's spinning. I can't tell if I'm being irrational, or if this really is as messed up as it felt in the moment. My wife, Emily, is 8 months pregnant with our first child. We live next door to a couple in their late 30s. Let's call them Bob and Sarah. I've never liked Bob. There's something off about him. He's one of those overly friendly guys who seems like he's always trying too hard to be in your business. The clingy kind. So yeah, I'll admit, I've had my doubts about him for a while. But maybe that's just me, or maybe not. This morning, I left for work like usual. But on the drive-in, I realized I just wasn't in the right headspace to deal with the day. I called off, swung by a diner for breakfast, and decided to surprise Emily by heading back home. I was gone for about 40 minutes tops. When I came in through the back door, I wasn't ready for what I saw. There they were, Emily and Bob, sitting together on our living room couch. She was facing him, fully dressed, except her shirt was pulled up, exposing her pregnant belly. And Bob? He was sitting across from her, using both hands to rub lotion on her stomach. They both froze when they saw me. Emily looked shocked and asked why I was home so early. She quickly explained that Bob had stopped by to borrow a toolbox while she was putting on lotion, and he asked if he could feel the baby move. She said she agreed, and that's all it was. I told Bob to get the hell out before I made him. He didn't argue, just left without a word. I tried to stay calm and asked Emily to explain everything. She stuck to her story. She added that Bob had told her Sarah, his wife, can't have kids, and he just wanted to feel the baby kick. Supposedly, that's why he was so interested. But that explanation doesn't sit right with me. There's a big difference between letting someone place their hand on a belly to feel a kick for a second, and inviting a neighbor over, especially a guy I've never liked, to sit on our couch and rub lotion on her pregnant stomach. If it had been a close friend or relative, maybe I could have looked past it. But this wasn't that. Emily's never shown any real closeness to Bob. She's always been polite but distant. She's not someone who lets just anyone touch her. So it's weird, way too convenient, in my opinion, that he just happened to come over right after I left, right after his wife left for work too. And suddenly, at 9:30 in the morning, he urgently needs a toolbox? He's never asked to borrow anything before. For the first time in our relationship, I feel like I can't fully trust her. And that scares the hell out of me. When I mentioned maybe talking to Sarah about it, Emily got real defensive. She said I shouldn't blow this out of proportion. But if it's really nothing, why does it matter who knows? Why be so worried? Even if there's nothing else going on, what I walked in on didn't feel okay. It's not just about her body, it's about boundaries. And watching another man rub lotion on my pregnant wife in our home while I was supposed to be at work, it wrecked me. Yeah, maybe he just wanted to feel the baby move. But that's not what it looked like. It looked intimate. Too intimate. And they were chatting quietly, like it was no big deal. I'm trying to stay calm for the baby's sake, to avoid stressing Emily out, but inside I'm still spiraling. Any advice would mean a lot right now. Since so many people responded, even across other subs, I figured I should follow up. You all were right. Thanks, honestly. After taking a day to cool down, reading every reply, and talking it out with a couple of close friends, I confronted Emily again. She stuck to her story. She apologized for making me uncomfortable and promised it would never happen again. Bob also left a handwritten apology in our mailbox, which felt odd, but whatever. Still, I couldn't shake the unease. Everyone said I should talk to Sarah, so I did. This morning, after Bob left for work, I called my mother-in-law and asked her to take Emily out for lunch. I told her to make it a whole outing, just something to get her out of the house and clear her mind. Meanwhile, I stayed with a buddy. Around noon, Emily texted saying she and her mom were out, and she'd be home by dinner. That's when I walked over and knocked on Sarah's door. Bob, it turns out, had already tried to get ahead of things. He told Sarah that I kicked him out yesterday morning and made a big scene, and that I'd said I didn't want him or Sarah talking to us anymore because, I was already furious about Bob rubbing lotion on Emily's belly, but what I learned next only made things worse. To my complete surprise, I found out that both Sarah and Bob had been coming over to our house pretty regularly while I was at work, for weeks. Apparently, Emily had asked them to help out with things around the house she couldn't manage on her own because of the pregnancy. Sometimes it was Sarah doing small chores or just keeping her company. Sometimes both of them came. And sometimes, it was just Bob. Emily had told Sarah that I knew about this arrangement, and was totally fine with it. So when Bob told Sarah I'd lost my mind and kicked him out, she was confused, and understandably so. She showed me a text she had sent Emily, asking if she was still welcome to stop by. Emily never responded. Since I don't talk much with Bob or Sarah, she took her husband at his word and figured I had some kind of issue. But then Sarah told me something else. She had noticed Emily and Bob getting closer over the past few weeks. She chalked it up to the pregnancy, maybe a coping mechanism for Bob's infertility. Still, it had raised some quiet red flags in her mind. That's when I told her everything, exactly what I had seen that morning, including the part about Bob supposedly needing a toolbox, which we now both knew was a lie. We both just stood there, processing the situation in disbelief. At one point, we cried together. Hugged even. First time we'd ever done that. It was like we kept swapping between denial and acceptance, trying to hold each other up emotionally. We walked around the block for a while, trying to get our thoughts straight. Eventually, we came up with a plan. Sarah said she'd call Bob at work and tell him that Emily had admitted to an affair, just to see how he would react. After that, I went back to my friend's place. That's when the panic attack started. I kept asking myself if I'd just ruined my marriage. If maybe I'd misunderstood everything and gone too far. I was sick with anxiety. And then my phone rang. It was Emily. She was yelling at me to leave work and come home, even though I wasn't at work, because Bob had called her. He told her that Sarah had accused him of having an affair, and she flipped out. She accused me of being paranoid, manipulative, and a terrible person. She even threatened to leave me. Meanwhile, I was still in full panic mode, feeling like I'd just blown up my entire life for no reason. But I also tried to stay calm for the baby's sake. Out of nowhere, I told her that if she was serious about leaving me, I'd still be asking for a paternity test. That changed everything. In an instant, her tone shifted. She started crying. Hyperventilating. She begged me to listen. Clung to me. Kept saying she was sorry, swearing nothing had happened, but also asking how I'd found out. I told her I just wanted the truth, and I asked if she'd come for a drive with me so we could talk somewhere private. She agreed. We parked in an empty lot and just talked. I told her flat out, if anything had happened with Bob, I needed to know now, because I already knew more than she thought. She hesitated. Then she confessed. She admitted that Bob had hit on her a few times even before she got pregnant. And then she dropped the real bomb. There was some uncertainty about whether the baby is mine. She said Bob had visited occasionally, just in case, acted like he might be the father. She swore they hadn't been intimate in months, but the implication was already out there. She begged me not to leave. She wanted us to move away, start fresh. She insisted the baby was mine. In every way that matters. Said Bob had manipulated her. She admitted she had lied to Sarah so Bob could keep visiting, pretending it was just to help out or play dad. I asked her to stay with her mom for a few days so I could breathe and think. She agreed. I drove her home, helped her pack, and dropped her off at her mom's. Then I went back to my friend's place and moved into his basement with just the essentials. That night, he called Emily for me and told her straight, if the baby is mine, I'll step up. But if it's not my responsibility anymore. Either way, I'd be filing for divorce. My friends took my phone and wiped me off social media. Emily tried reaching out to some of them, but they told her to leave me alone. I talked to my boss, who's been supportive. Meanwhile, the last I heard from Sarah was that Bob still hadn't come home. He wasn't answering her calls or texts. It feels like I lost everything in under a week. My marriage, my peace, my future, all of it. Gone. The only thing keeping me going right now is the slim hope that the baby really is mine. This morning I woke up, and for the first time in my life, I felt disappointed that I had. I've never felt this alone. And I still don't know how to move forward. I doubt anyone remembers my original posts. They were removed, and I never got a clear reason why. I've messaged the mod team but haven't heard back. Maybe this update will get removed too. If anyone wants to dig up the original, I've heard they're still viewable through Removedit or similar sites. Since my last update, I've still been getting messages from people asking how things turned out, so I figured I'd share this final piece. A shorter wrap-up to what's been the longest, most painful story of my life. A week after that last post, Emily gave birth. I was there at the hospital. And yes, the baby is mine. I can't put into words the mix of emotions that hit me when I held my daughter for the first time. Relief, love, exhaustion, all tangled up in one moment. But it didn't make everything else disappear. The damage was still there. The weeks that followed were brutal. Both sides of the family got involved. Everyone had an opinion. Friends took sides, emotions ran high, and drama seemed to follow us around like a storm cloud. But through it all, I was lucky enough to have a lot of support, from people in my life, and honestly, from all of you who shared advice, encouragement, or just kind words. A few days after Emily was discharged, we sat down for a real conversation. She came over to my friend's basement, where I'd been staying. He stuck around in the background, just in case I needed someone there. That conversation, it was rough. We got everything out. I let it rip, all the hurt, the betrayal, the anger. I said some things I regret now. Things I know probably cut deep. She didn't argue. She just sat there and cried. Apologized. Over and over. Begged me to take her back, to give our family a second chance. But I'd already made my peace with what needed to happen. After about an hour, it hit me. I didn't feel anything romantic for her anymore. No love. No desire to fix things. Just emptiness. Emily seemed to realize it too. She stopped trying to convince me. We both agreed that our marriage was over. What we did agree on, though, was this: our daughter comes first. Always. We decided to approach co-parenting as respectfully and calmly as possible. No fighting. No drama. Just two people doing the best they can for their child, even if they couldn't make it work as husband and wife. Emily still has the chance to be a great mom, but she failed as a partner. That truth doesn't change. Right now, I'm staying in a small apartment. The plan is to sell the house eventually, but for now, it's on pause. As for Sarah, she's leaving Bob. He's been living with his mom and still hasn't spoken to her directly. The last thing he texted her was a sort of half-hearted apology. He admitted what he did, said he was sorry for hurting her, said he loved her, and that he wouldn't fight the divorce. Sarah's struggling. She doesn't have much of a support system, so we've been leaning on each other. Just two people trying to heal. We talk, check in on each other, and help where we can. Just to be clear, I have zero romantic interest in Sarah. She's a kind, strong person, and I'm grateful for her friendship. But that's all it is. Emotionally, I'm still coming to terms with everything, especially my new role as a dad. I had already braced myself for the worst, thinking the baby might not be mine. So now that she is, I want to do everything right. I've signed up for parenting classes and I'm trying to soak in every minute with my daughter. It's scary as hell, but it's also the one thing keeping me grounded. I've got a long road ahead, and there's still a lot of healing to do. But for now, I'm stable. And I'm a father. That's what matters most. In the beginning, I was hurting, angry, confused, but firm in my decision to start fresh. Emily begged me to come back. She insisted that marriages could survive things like this. She kept saying she didn't understand why she did it, that she wanted to fix what we had. At first, I wasn't buying it. But as the shock started to wear off, I kept thinking back on the 6 years we spent together. How they really were the best years of my life. And how, before all this, Emily had always been the last person I'd ever expect to cheat on me. She was so caring. So loving. So solid. So, about 5 days after D-Day, I reached out. I told her I wanted to try again. That I wasn't ready to give up on us just yet. I asked her to come home, to at least see if there was anything left to save. But she said no. She told me something was broken, in her, in the marriage, in her mind. She said she was lining up an apartment, and planned to move out. She wasn't sure if there was anything left worth saving. I asked her straight up if it was because she was still talking to the guy she cheated with. She said she wasn't leaving me for him, but she did admit she still had feelings for him. And because of that, she couldn't fully focus on us, not while those feelings were hanging around. So that's where I was left. Heartbroken. Betrayed all over again. It felt like a second blow. Then, just yesterday, a mutual friend let something slip. That guy, the one she had feelings for, had pulled away. He'd stopped flirting. Cut back on talking to her. And apparently, she was disappointed. So what was it then? A midlife crisis? A serotonin chase? We're about 7 weeks out now from when everything collapsed, and the pain still hasn't gone away. But with help from a close friend, I've come to understand something important. I was codependent. Way more than I ever realized. I had built my entire sense of happiness around Emily. She was my everything. So when she left, I felt like I lost everything. Now, every day is about trying to find strength. Piece by piece, I'm working on becoming emotionally independent. I know I wouldn't be good for anyone right now. I'd probably cling, searching for a new everything, and just end up getting hurt again. If you're thinking about reconciliation after betrayal, here's what I've learned. Really take time to ask yourself why you want to reconcile. Is it because the good memories are still strong? Because the marriage was mostly great? That's valid. But if it's because your whole identity is wrapped up in your partner, that's dangerous. You need to be whole on your own first. That's the lesson I'm learning. I still don't know how this ends. I'm not even sure I want to reconcile anymore. I've gone full no contact with Emily, because right now, I have to focus on healing myself. I've finally reached the point where I'm done waiting. Tonight, I'm sitting down with Emily and giving her a clear choice. I don't want a divorce, I really don't, but I can't keep living like this, caught in limbo. From the beginning, I had the gut feeling that she wanted to explore, test the dating world, enjoy her freedom, but still keep me on the back burner. Some kind of emotional safety net. I didn't want to believe it, until we talked again recently, and she casually told me about her dating life. That broke me. It felt like she was going out of her way to hurt me. Maybe she thought honesty would make her feel less guilty. But all it did was push me further away. The next morning, I woke up knowing it was truly over. I couldn't live like this, holding on to hope while she scouted out a replacement. This wasn't a marriage anymore. She told me she missed how things were when we were dating. But I don't buy that for a second. I think she misses the idea of comfort, not us. My therapist suggested I give her one last clear choice. So that's what I'm doing. Tonight I'll ask her, cut off all other guys, and make a real effort to repair this marriage, or walk away for good. It's not an ultimatum out of spite. It's to give her a say. So she doesn't get to spin this as me abandoning her. If she walks, it's on her. I know what to expect. She'll probably say I'm pushing too hard. That I haven't given her enough time. But it's been almost 3 months. That's more than enough time to figure out whether you want to stay married. This whole thing started when she spent a weekend alone with another man. And even after I opened the door to reconciliation, she still chose to live apart. I've taken hit after hit. But I kept hoping maybe, just maybe, there'd be a way back. Now I'm starting to accept that not every story gets a happy ending. I hope dating again is worth it to her, because it cost us everything. After 11 weeks of confusion and heartbreak, I gave Emily the ultimatum: the men she's been dating, or our marriage. She chose them. Not even a week later, she claimed she was having second thoughts. So we spent another week going back and forth, trying to talk about reconciling. Eventually, I got tired of the yo-yo. I asked again, me or the dating life? And for the second time in 11 days, she chose freedom. I see it clearly now. I'm fully aware of what this means, and I'm done. I was foolish to think she'd truly want to fix things. For 3 months, I let my codependency cloud my judgment. But now, I see it clearly, it's over. I've restarted the divorce process, and am working on cutting her out of my life completely. What's hardest right now isn't the paperwork, or even being alone, it's the raw reality of a failed marriage. Being rejected, twice, by the woman I once believed I'd grow old with. You want to know what haunts me? The image of her with him. The guy she cheated with, her boyfriend, now, apparently. He's going to be at her family's Thanksgiving. The same family that used to spend Christmas Eve in our home, laughing and drinking eggnog by our fireplace. They'll be laughing with him this year. I know I'm making the right decision. There's no doubt left. But it doesn't make the betrayal any less brutal. Knowing she picked him, even if just emotionally, over me, it cuts deeper than I thought anything could. Yesterday marked the final hearing for our divorce. 5 months, almost to the day, since I found out about her affair. After leaving the lawyer's office, she hugged me. Told me she hoped I'd find happiness. I echoed the same wish back. That was it. The last time I'll ever see her, at least in that way. We both had tears in our eyes, and despite everything, there was a strange kind of peace in that moment. Like we were finally closing a door that should have been shut a long time ago. She was the one person I had no doubt I'd grow old with. But that future's gone. So now, here I am, trying to start over. Trying to believe there's someone out there who will treat me, and my daughter, the way we deserve. It's a chance to rebuild, but man, it's a somber one. She took more from me than she realizes. Cheating doesn't just break trust, it guts you. It's the cruelest way to say, I don't love you anymore, without actually saying it. A few nights ago, I saw John walk into the bar, hadn't seen him in months. I gave him a grin, glad to see a familiar face. It was early, the place was quiet, and I hoped we could catch up. John and I used to be close, but lately, he'd gone off the radar. I'd called, texted, even stopped by his office and his house a few times. Nothing. I figured he was just going through something and needed space. But when I saw his face, I knew something was wrong. There was anger behind his eyes. Heavy, burning anger. I stood to greet him, to shake hands, and before I knew it, his fist connected with my jaw. Hard. I went down fast, my head slamming into the edge of a table. I tasted blood and felt something come loose, a tooth. I lay there, dazed, barely able to process what was happening. John stood over me, shaking with rage. He shouted that I knew. That Emily and I had been laughing behind his back. That we were in on it. He kept swinging, my ribs, my legs, yelling that we'd helped Amanda cheat on him. I couldn't even respond. The pain, the shock, it all blurred together. I managed to croak out a confused, "What?" But that just set him off more. Thank God some of the regulars jumped in and pulled him off. The bartender called the cops. A patrol car showed up fast, but the ambulance took longer. I remember being helped onto a gurney, barely conscious, as the sirens wailed around me. I blacked out before we even left the parking lot. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. For a moment, I thought it had all been a nightmare. But the 4 in my arm and the dull throb in my head told me otherwise. Emily was there. Her eyes were red, and she looked shaken. She said she just stepped out to call my parents. Then she sat beside me, held my hand, and cried. The meds had dulled the swelling in my face, so I could talk a little better. I asked her what the hell had just happened. I told her I didn't understand what John was talking about us helping Amanda cheat. It didn't make sense. Why would he believe something so ridiculous? Emily didn't answer right away. She just cried. Then, in the quiet that followed, something about her expression made me stop cold. She wasn't just crying because I got hurt. She was hiding something. Her silence, it wasn't grief. It was guilt. I looked her in the eye and started to ask, but just then, the doctor came in. He said my jaw wasn't broken, just badly bruised. As long as the headaches didn't worsen, I could be discharged that night. I told him I felt fine, even though I didn't. I needed to leave. I needed to get answers. The nurses did their paperwork. Emily stayed quiet. We didn't say a word on the drive home. No music. No small talk. Just silence. By the time we pulled into the driveway, I was too drained to ask anything. I changed clothes and collapsed into bed. But something was wrong. And I knew it wasn't just John. That night, I passed out as soon as I hit the bed. Emily curled up next to me, holding me tight like she never wanted to let go. The next morning, after I took a quick shower, I joined her in the kitchen. My whole body still ached, but my head was a bit clearer. Emily was standing there, lost in thought, staring off like she was somewhere else entirely. When she finally noticed I was there, she turned and asked, "How are you feeling now?" "Okay, I guess. Still got a bit of a headache, and everything hurts," I told her, sipping some coffee. "I just need a day to rest, and I'll be fine. I still can't wrap my head around why John lost it like that." She stayed quiet, so I asked, "Did Amanda say anything to you? Have you talked to her since yesterday? Maybe she knows what set him off." Emily nodded slightly. "I talked to her a bit yesterday. She was as shocked as I was by what John did to you." I watched her closely as she spoke. Her words felt controlled, careful. And her eyes, they looked sad. Not the kind of sadness from being shaken by an attack. This was deeper. Something was off. Normally, Emily wears her emotions on her sleeve, but now she seemed guarded, almost like she was afraid to say too much. I reached across the table and took her hands in mine. "I'm okay, babe. Really. I've had time to clear my head." She didn't respond. She just leaned in and hugged me tight, her tears soaking through my shirt. We held each other for a while, whispering, "I love you," back and forth, trying to find comfort in the silence. We both called off work and spent the day at home. But something besides the physical pain was nagging at me, something I couldn't shake. None of this added up. John's sudden outburst, the accusations about helping Amanda cheat. Emily's sudden timidity, her vague answers to basic questions. It didn't sit right. I wanted to push her for more details about her conversation with Amanda, but she was already so emotional, I held back. I figured it wasn't the right time for a confrontation. Still, even though we were both home, we felt miles apart. I ended up sitting in the backyard alone, watching the breeze move the grass and trees. All I could think about was John, how we'd been friends for years, and how I'd never seen him lose control like that without a damn good reason. What if he wasn't entirely wrong? Emily had only said Amanda was shocked, but I couldn't remember her ever denying that Amanda cheated. That stuck with me. Eventually, I decided I needed to hear John's side of the story, straight from him. I knew there was a risk he might lash out again, but I figured it was the only way to really understand what the hell happened. I planned to talk to Emily too, about our part in all this. About what made John think we were in on some betrayal. Emily told me she was going to swing by work briefly to grab her laptop since she'd be working from home that week. Once she left, I took the chance to try calling John again. No answer. So I took a cab to his house, hoping maybe he'd been released from jail. But as soon as I pulled up, my stomach dropped. Emily's car was parked out front. I didn't knock. I walked around to the side of the house quietly, not sure what I was expecting, and that's when I heard her. She was inside, talking to Amanda? But this wasn't the tearful, apologetic Emily I'd seen earlier. She was angry. Furious, even. She was yelling about John overhearing a conversation he wasn't supposed to, about her setting Amanda up with a date and promising to cover for her. John had apparently overheard Emily saying something like, "Don't worry, I've got your back, John will be distracted," And now it all made sense. John thought I was in on it. That I was helping Emily cover for Amanda so she could cheat on him with this guy, Tom. Emily was telling Amanda she would have warned me if she'd known John overheard. That she only realized what he heard after I got attacked, and that during his one phone call from jail, he told her he hated her and would rather rot in a cell than ever speak to her again. She tried to sound sympathetic, but it was clear Amanda had been the one who blew up her own marriage. Still, Emily's support of Amanda, her choice to play lookout to lie, had helped cause the mess. And now that I was in the crosshairs, it was finally hitting her just how bad this had gotten. When I finally walked inside, Emily turned to me, startled. I told her straight, our marriage was in serious trouble now. She tried to calm me down, said I didn't cheat, that none of this was my fault. But I could hear it in her voice, she didn't believe that either. She closed her eyes, rubbing her forehead, clearly overwhelmed. But I wasn't in the mood to be reassured. I lied to John, I said. I helped you cover for Amanda. I betrayed my best friend. And he nearly beat me to death because of it. How the hell am I supposed to fix that? Emily shook her head. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't know. That doesn't matter, I snapped. I still played a part in this. And now, I have no idea how to put any of it back together. If I can't figure that out soon, our marriage might end the same way theirs did. I looked at her, and all I could think was how stupid I'd been. How blind. What kind of person does this to someone they care about? I told Emily flat out, helping her cover for Amanda was the biggest mistake of my life. And if this ever blew up again, if I completely lost it over what happened, I'd never speak to her again. She tried to console me. Said I had always been a loving husband. That John knew how much I cared about him. I snapped, the sarcasm practically dripping from my voice. Yeah, I was such a loving husband that backing your promiscuous friend got me beat to hell by my best friend. Emily insisted I still didn't understand the full picture. That it wasn't what it looked like. But all I could think was how long, years, probably, it would take before I ever trusted her again. If I ever could. I felt like a complete fool. How could I not wonder whether John would ever believe in me again? I'd heard enough. I calmly walked out of the house, heading back toward the street. Somehow, even after everything, my instincts kicked in. I stayed focused. I stayed level-headed. There was still more I needed to know before I could even try to put the pieces back together. While I waited for a taxi, a plan started forming. I had to set things right. But first, I needed the full story. That meant paying a visit to someone I owed more than just answers. When I showed up at the precinct and told the officers I wanted to post bail, they looked at me like I had 3 heads. Even the sergeant and detectives looked puzzled. But after years on the force and their fair share of strange cases, they just shrugged and processed the paperwork. They couldn't help smirking when John saw me walking in to get him out. His expression was priceless. A mix of shock and disbelief. They even laughed when I told John, "Just shut up until I tell you to talk." Still confused, John didn't say a word. He just followed me, got into the car, and stayed quiet as I gave the driver the address. We rode in silence. Not a word between us until we pulled up to the bar, the same one where everything had gone down. Inside, the same bartender was working. I saw the nerves hit him the second we walked in. He clearly thought we were there to start more trouble. I quickly waved him down and told him to relax. "Just 2 glasses of Glenmorangie Signet," I said. "And leave us alone." He nodded, set us up with a bottle, and disappeared to the other side of the room. John and I sat in a corner booth. I poured 2 generous drinks, slid one his way, and raised my glass. "To the first drink," I said, half laughing. We clinked glasses, drank in silence. Then I looked him in the eye. Told him the truth. I said, "I didn't know. I swear to you, John. I had no idea what Emily and Amanda were planning. I just thought we were hanging out, blowing off steam like we used to. They used that. They used us. They knew I'd never agree to anything like this, So they didn't even bother telling me. John stared at me, like he was trying to figure out if I was full of it. But eventually, something in his face shifted. He saw it. He believed me. The prison time must have cooled his rage a bit, because he didn't snap. Instead, he sat back and listened. I let it all out, how Emily had blindsided me, how I gave everything to our marriage and ended up discarded like garbage. John nodded, then poured himself another drink. And then, for the first time in days, he really talked. He told me how Amanda shattered him. How Emily, someone he thought was loyal, helped her do it. It wasn't just the cheating, though that was bad enough. It was the betrayal by the people he trusted most. The idea that I might have been laughing at him behind his back, that part broke him. More than Amanda ever could. Eventually, the anger drained out of him. The alcohol helped. So did the talking. After venting everything he'd been holding in, he slumped in his seat and muttered, "I'm sorry, man. I should have talked to you. I snapped." He looked wrecked. But honest. He said that when he realized both his marriage and our friendship were falling apart at the same time, he lost all control. The idea that I'd stabbed him in the back, that I had been in on it, that hurt more than Amanda's betrayal ever could. I took another sip of whiskey, looked at him, and gave him a tired smile. "It's okay," I said. And I meant it. "I probably deserved it," John muttered, "for having an affair with your sister around Christmas." I stared at him, not even sure I heard him right. "Wait, what?" He didn't repeat it. Just shook his head and went on. He told me that a few weeks back, he'd started feeling off about his marriage. Something just didn't sit right. Amanda was acting differently, and his gut kept telling him she was hiding something. So, he began pulling back, keeping an emotional distance, even thinking about hiring a private investigator. Then one afternoon while he was at work, his phone lit up, a notification from the Ring camera on their front porch. Amanda was outside, picking up an Amazon package. The motion sensor had triggered the video feed, and the mic picked up everything. She was on the phone, setting up a hookup. She even mentioned me and Emily by name. Said we could help her out. Again, like before. John heard that, and felt his whole world collapse. To him, it didn't sound like I was clueless or caught off guard. It sounded like I was in on it. Like I was part of the scheme. He looked at me as he told the story, and I could see the pain in his eyes. 2 marriages destroyed because Amanda couldn't stay faithful, and she'd forgotten all about the camera. The betrayal cut deep. And then there was Emily. John admitted that, for a while, he was almost sure Emily had cheated too. After all, she'd been Amanda's cover, she had lied to protect her, and she'd manipulated me into helping, all without me knowing. But then he remembered something, a conversation he'd overheard when the cops picked him up. Something in that exchange made him realize Emily hadn't been out sleeping around. At least, not physically. Still, he couldn't understand why I was even considering staying with her. I told him the truth. Sometimes betrayal isn't about sex. Sometimes the wound cuts deeper when trust is broken in a different way. When the person you love lies to you, uses your friendships, and turns you into a pawn, that's a special kind of damage. Sure, maybe it would have been simpler if she just slept with someone else. That kind of betrayal is brutal, but at least it's clear. This was Messier. More insidious. Emily didn't cheat on me in the traditional sense. But she still lied. Repeatedly. About what Amanda was doing, about her involvement, and about what she asked me to cover up. She made me part of the betrayal, without my consent. And how do you stay married to someone you can't trust? I told John that I didn't think trust was something that got stronger over time. Not after a breach like this. People talk about forgiveness, about moving on, but they never really forget. They carry it, tucked away in the corners of their heart. Emily knew what she was doing. And no apology could undo that. So I told him I was done. It was time to move on. To start over. John nodded, quiet for a second. Then he cracked a small, bitter smile. "Man! I envy you," At least your divorce is going civilly. Maybe you two'll even stay on good terms. Then he added, I'm thinking of sending Amanda's resume to a brothel in Mexico. Get her a job that matches her talents. Maybe it'll knock some dollars off my child support. That made me laugh. A real, honest laugh, for the first time in weeks. John had this way of seeing the world exactly as it was, no sugarcoating. He wasn't denying the pain. But he wasn't going to let it destroy him, either. He was right. It might feel like the end of the world now. But down the road? We'd both be okay. That night, I went home and talked to Emily. She already knew where things were headed. The second I walked in, she broke down. She cried, begged me to consider counseling, pleaded for another chance. But deep down, she understood. I told her I wasn't doing this out of anger. I just couldn't live with what she'd done, not anymore. She nodded through the tears. She knew this wasn't like her. That this wasn't who she wanted to be. But some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. I was choosing a new path. A clean slate. The chapter of my life with Emily was closed.